Okay, well, look, I'm really, really excited to welcome Ebanie Bridges back onto the show, an undefeated female boxer. And Ebanie, it's fantastic to see you again. Great amateur career, your pro career is going brilliantly. And we're just going to show a few clips of you actually in action to underline how good you are.
Now fire back and then you just put the fence. Go. Now move, now move, now move. And go. Like that. Now circle, get out and go. And go, stay. Work through there.
Tidy. Good.
And if you got a whole punch. There you go, like that. Hold. Right, get it down, move.
Upcut. Bring him up.
And Ebanie, I know we talked about the upcoming Persoon Taylor fight a few weeks ago, but I really wanted to talk to you again about it because I just feel that so much has happened since we talked only a few weeks ago in the world of women's boxing. I don't know if you know, over here in the UK, 2 weeks ago we had the Terry Harper v Natasha Jonas fight, the WBC super featherweight title fight, a 10-round fight that went this way and that way. It was an incredible fight. It headlined the Eddie Hearn's fight camp, and it was the first time that two British female fighters had been headlining a show fighting for a world title. And it was an amazing fight. And it was one of those things that I think, kind of stepped out of that realm of being a great women's fight. It was just a great fight. And I think people saw the level of skill that's coming into women's boxing, and I think through the amount of people that are now competing, and that was kind of underlined this week. We had Shannon Courtney against Rachel Ball, and Rachel Ball sort of sprung the upset there, and beat Courtney. And of course, last weekend as well, we had Jessica McCaskill against Celia Breakhurst. Breakhurst, an 11-year reign, and she was upset by McCaskill. And it just shows to me, in those 2 weekends, the depth of talent that's now available in the women's game. The level of skill that's arising in the women's game, probably through the depth of talent. And the amount of people that are coming through, knocking on the door. And of course, when the Tokyo Olympics comes around, hopefully next year, there's a whole new crop of talent. In my mind, I mean, and Caroline Dubois, I don't know if anybody's heard of her, but they will do. But, in my mind, female boxing was carried by torchbearers in the past, and to an extent, Taylor has been that torchbearer. Before originally we had Jane Couch, and Martin and so on, and they had opponents, but they Olalia Ali, and they had people they fought. But now, there's a massive field. There's loads of talent. There's people coming up. The name of the challenger. You know what's happening. And it just feels to me that there's been a bit of an epiphany moment for boxing fans, I think, in the last few weeks about women's boxing. And a lot of people who maybe have been slow to take on board to it have really opened their eyes to it. Do you feel it's a seminal moment for women's boxing? Do you feel women's boxing has really, really arrived, or do you think that happened a while ago?
No, I really do think that the last 3 weeks, I mean, I know you mentioned 3 fights there, but there's been more than that.
Yeah.
We had the Mayer, obviously Michaela Mayer and Helen Joseph as well, which was an excellent fight. We had Kim Clavel putting on an excellent performance as well. So I mean, we've had fights all around the world from all different countries of women's boxing, which has been incredible. And I definitely think it's been highlighted because it's been consecutive. It's not just like one female fight, and then we have to wait like another, a couple of months for another good one, So I think obviously Eddie Hearn, backing the women's boxing has been a huge thing. I was just talking to, someone else the other day about how, is Eddie Hearn the Dana White of boxing? You know what I mean? Because he really believes in the women, So, and he's putting the money behind it, and he's making the main events, and he's telling their stories. It's not just like some kind of, feature on a men's card now. Like now we know about the fighters. The stories are being told. It's not just like their name. So you get to connect with these fighters. You just start learning about them. You want to go on their journey with them. So I think that's a big thing. Because that's what happens in men's boxing. And yeah, the skill, like, obviously Katie Taylor, like you did say there was some pioneers, obviously the Jane Couches and those guys, but again, like you said, the pool was so small, it was hard to see such really good 50-50 fights. It was always just them dominating, so when you start seeing 50-50 fights in women's boxing, which is, and the skill, like, when you look at them, you don't go, oh, that's two girls fighting. You look at them and go, that's boxing, because they got the skill, and they've got a lot of these girls like the Terry Harpers and the Jonas and the Katie Taylors. They had the pathway, they had the Olympic pathway, they have the amateur pathway. The girls back in the day, they didn't have the Olympic pathways to progress and to develop that skill. They were just thrown straight into the pro boxing, and it was just, really learn. There was no real, base on that. So I think that's a big thing. And obviously we're looking women's was first in the Olympics in 2012. So, we're 8 years on now. So, the first year of the Olympics, there wouldn't have been that many. But now, we've had a few Olympics. So these girls are all turning over, and now they're coming into the pros, which is showing that more elite kind of, level. So I think, I think it's a brilliant thing. And the fact that now, you guys have so much talent over there in the UK. And now with COVID, you're forced to fight each other, which is brilliant. Like, Shannon Courtney and Rachel Ball fight. They're novice-y, right? But they didn't look at they still put it, like, considering they've only had, like, a handful of fights, I think they fought so well. Like, I thought it was a really good, it wasn't like a messy, crazy, like, what are we watching kind of fight. You know what I mean? It was a great fight. I take my hats off to both of those girls. I think it was good. It was a clash of styles too, which was really exciting, so and then you obviously had the more developed Jonas and Harper, which was just, again, back and forth. And we saw some really good things from Jonas there, which I hadn't seen before. And and the drama, the Courtney Ball fight, the drama with the knockdown and getting back up, and I mean, those things is what makes boxing and what makes fights exciting. So hats off to all of those girls and everyone involved in it. And I think it's just only going to get better now that now the public has seen these female fights, and they're like, okay, wait, maybe we might tune in next time because it might be like this. Like, actually it might be good. And I think it's up to us as fighters. It's up to promoters to like, as a fighter, to train hard, to make sure that when we jump in that ring, we've trained hard, and we're because as a female, fortunately, we are still representing each other. When we jump in the ring, we're still representing each other, as well as us, but it's still each other. When the boys step in, it's not like, okay, well, he's shit, so that means all males are shit. You know what I mean? Sorry.
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Sorry.
And I think, as you said, with the talent coming through, which has kind of been lacking from women's boxing in the past, because there wasn't that pathway. But now we're all excited talking about the next Olympic generation. I mentioned Caroline Dubois, Daniel Dubois' younger sister, family. But I mean, she's causing a lot of excitement now. People are just, really waiting for her. Obviously, hoping she'll have a great Olympics, and that's going to be a springboard to a massive pro career. So, we're talking about the amateurs coming through and how they're going to get on in the pros. So it's a whole, real strength in depth to women's boxing, which hasn't been perceived to be there before.
Exactly. Well, look at the men, like you're talking, like, even like back in the 70s, they had the Olympics, like they were going through the Olympics. They had those pathways, of course there's the exceptions of people that didn't go to the Olympics, that were still great pro boxers, and there's still that in the women's as well. But I mean, it does help. It does show a lot more on talent and skill, and just that like, not so obvious that it's women boxing, it's female. It's not like girls boxing. They box like men, like it's men. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's just boxing. Yeah. Because of the development of how it's done, I think. Anyways, So yeah. Exciting stuff. I'm pumped. I'm so excited. It's really, really good. And I can't wait for this weekend.
And so coming to this weekend, so we're gonna have 3 weeks of amazing women's fights around the world. And
it's sad when it's all over.
And so obviously it's building to this Taylor Persoon rematch. And I know we've spoken a bit about it before, but it's interesting to see them coming into camp now and being accepted into the bubble, and they have to fight under slightly different circumstances. But you can see already, I mean, that last fight, people feel the success that Persoon had in the fight, the unexpected success. was by dragging Taylor into that knockdown, drag out fight. You know, really taking her into the trenches, negating some of her skills by fighting close and getting her to have that sort of dogfight type fight. And then we were saying last time, you know, Taylor wants to use those skills, stay outside with the jab, you know, box and move, you know, really, you know, rather than get down there in the trenches. Persoon is already saying to Taylor, look, come on, you know, this was a great fight. This put women's boxing on the map last time because we stood toe to toe, because we traded, because we did all this stuff. We made it an exciting fight. Don't go on the back foot. Don't jab and move. Don't run away. Yeah. You know, psychologically, she's trying to drag her in. And Taylor is saying, no, I'm not having any of that. I'm going to be a lot smarter this time, you know. Yeah. But how do you think, I mean, we're talking about, we think that Taylor will win this. We think that she has a superior skill set. We think she will box and move. But Persoon's route to victory is probably to get into the same fight she had last time. And how do you think she's going about that well? So first of all, do you think she's going about that well outside the ring? Psychologically kind of saying to Taylor, come on, you know, let's do it again. Let's do it like we did it last time. And when she's in the ring, how is she going to do that? How is she going to drag her into that fight?
Well, I think definitely, I mean, you got to use everything you got, you know, and that is the talk outside of the ring as well. I mean, Persoon's in like a situation where she, you know, really, she has a handful of things, you know what I mean? It's not like she don't have a toolbox. She has a handful of things, you know, so she's got to use a lot of what she can do, which again is that psychological stuff, anything to try and break her, you know, and try and pull her into that. But yeah, coming into the fight, I mean, you know, she has a really great 1-2, like a really nice, strong, sharp, you know, 1-2. She can, you know, use that to stun Katie Taylor and, you know, cut close with that. Then, I mean, I think that could be something that she could really work on. Like every time if she's not staying on Katie Taylor's chest, you know, when she's cutting off the chest, to cut off the ring really well. I mean, she's, you know, that's, if you're going to come in and sit on the inside with a fighter, like, you know, you need to know how to cut off that ring. If you're just going to be chasing her around, then, you know, it's not going to work. It's not going to work, especially with Katie Taylor. So you got to be really, really good at cutting off that ring. You know, using her jab when she comes in, you know, have those guards up or using that double jab, moving that head movement to make sure she gets in. And when she gets in, she got to kind of stay in there, you know. And if obviously Katie, you know, what we think Katie would do is like jab and move and pivot and all these kind of stuff. And she just has to keep that pressure on, you know, and just be relentless, you know, absolutely relentless, like take it to the next level. So I think, but I think it starts in the earlier rounds, you know, like, you know, even trying to hurt her. Katie Taylor was hurt, you know, so I mean, you know, hurt her, try and hurt her, you know, use that really sharp 1-2 that you got. You know, mind you, I mean, Persoon can kind of box. Like, she can box. I've seen her box back foot. She can box. She, you know, it's not like she can't do that and she can only brawl. But Katie's the superior boxer, so you're not going to have a boxing match.
Well, exactly. But, I don't think we want to underline too much this narrative we're putting across that Taylor has far the superior skill set and can win this in an easier way this way. Because, you know, let's not forget Persoon is ranked number 2. You know, pound for pound by box rec. Yeah. So these people are very close in skill levels, as you say. You know, let's not write off Persoon's skill.
Exactly. So, I mean, I feel like, hey, who knows? She might go, you know what? I've been practicing my boxing. You know, I've been doing that amateur stuff because I was trying for the Olympics. You know, I'm going to try and like box you, and I'm going to like completely shake things up right now, and you're going to expect me to come in, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait for you. And I'll wait for you to come in and maybe have some patience, you know, and see how that goes. You know, there's a lot of things that we could do. You know, I think personally, what she did in the first fight, it's what worked. You know, like for the first fight, you know, so you would think you would want to do that again, but maybe be obviously more effective with it. You know, don't be getting hit as much on the exchanges. You know, maybe when you exchange, instead of throwing your hands from your waist, you know, rolling a little bit more or catching a little bit more, you know, so you're not getting tagged. Because I mean, in the end, you know, you don't want to get points. It's all about hitting and not getting hit, not just, you know, going in with your head down throwing punches. So I mean, you know, she's got to be like that as well. So yeah, I would like it in the beginning of the rounds in the early rounds, really try and use that sharp 1-2 just to really, you know, get that measure and really try and stun Katie. and then once she if she stings her or she does, that's capitalize on that. But I don't know about rushing her. I mean, like it's hard because you want to do all that, but you have to stay composed as well. You don't, like, I mean, yeah, I don't want to bring up the McCaskill fight, but I mean, like that, what she did to Breakhurst, like, you know what I mean? Breakhurst is a boxer, a class boxer, and McCaskill just went in there like swinging for the hills, and put that pressure on her. It's a similar kind of thing, but maybe not as wild, but like I think that kind of thing that threw Breakhurst off. So I think it could do a similar thing. We've seen it. It's just comes down to, I think, Eddie Taylor's composure. And
well, exactly. I wonder how that composure could be affected. One thing I heard in the interviews with Taylor, which I thought this has got to you, not so much Persoon trying to drag her in, but she's had this since this fight in last year, in the middle of last year. She had afterwards. She had Carl Froch, David Hay, nearly everyone at ringside saying that she lost. And then a lot of people have been saying that to her ever since. Now, Katie Taylor does think that's outrageous. She said, I've watched the fight back. At most, you could give her 5 rounds, really at a squeeze, but I don't think it was that close. I mean, it was a close fight, but I definitely won. I won without a shadow of a doubt. In Katie Taylor's mind, great. But isn't she going to want to go out and really prove that? It's like, I'm not going to beat you by 1 point, by 2 points. It's not going to be I don't want it to be a close fight this time. Because ever since we had that close fight, everybody's been going on at me that I lost. So she's going to want to really say, look, I'm going to emphatically win this time. And nobody's going to question it.
And I definitely don't think that comes from sitting in there, getting drawn in and trading those punches. She needs to do it the same way. We talked about the same way Sugar Ray Leonard made Duran say no mice. The same way that AJ, completely shut out. AJ completely shut out Ruiz. That's what she needs to do. She needs to box smart, stay composed, not get thinking that she has to prove in that sense like that she can fight, because we know she can fight. Now she needs to prove that she's disciplined, and that she can stick to a game plan, and that stuff doesn't really get to her. I mean, it could come down to the fact that what boxing fans are like. I mean, she could just outbox Persoon, and everyone will whinge and say, she just ran, and she, that's what they love to say about boxing. She just ran away, and it wasn't an exciting female fight, but proper pugilists and boxing fans will know, that that's boxing. Hit and don't get hit and move. So I mean, I think having the no crowd there could help, because I mean, I mentioned it before, not getting drawn in by the crowd. Every time you get in exchanges, hear the crowd going crazy and you just go hard for it. I think it might be easier to stay disciplined, easier to hear your corner, maybe easier to concentrate, so.
Well, having said that, the crowd is a factor, and I wonder who it will be a factor for. Like you say, it may stop them getting drawn into that, that excitement of the crowd. But in my mind, Katie Taylor's always boxed before pro-Katie Taylor crowds, which helps, helps to lift you and all that sort of stuff. Whereas this time, obviously, there is no crowd. There's no pro-anti crowd. It's just that silence. And I wonder, she won't be used to that. And
I mean, look, I don't know Katie, haven't met her, and I don't like to judge people, but she's quiet herself. Like, I don't know, like, and I look at Persoon's style, and because it's a similar kind of like, like go hard style that I'm kind of into, I like to go hard, like go hard and just like kill. And I mean, I'm telling you, like when I hear the crowd, like, and you're in there, like it hypes you, like, when you hit them, and you hear that crowd roar, like you're like, that's awesome. So I think possibly, like, without having that reaction from her punches, or that reaction of when she hurts Katie, or that reaction when her inside, it might not, cheer up, like get her going. So
yeah. I mean, it's interesting as well, because so much is expected of this, because as we've just said, what a role for women's boxing, and it feels like it's almost been choreographed to perfectly culminate with the most anticipated rematch in women's boxing. I mean, it's worth saying as well that sometimes rematches can be a little bit disappointing when you've had a really exciting first fight. So, I hope, because I just feel this is an epiphany moment, a seminal moment in women's boxing. It's coming of age.
Yeah, I feel like it can't be disappointing, because Katie Taylor's exciting, Persoon's exciting. I mean, no matter what, you're going to see really fast hands. You're going to see combos. You're going to, it's 2-minute rounds. It's, like it's going to be exciting. It's and I mean, I don't think it's going to be crazy messy either. I see Persoon really roughing. That's what she'll use. She'll use dirty tactics. You know, she'll get dirty, get more dirty than before. You know, like use those tactics. You know, pushing their elbows, put her, you know, anything she can use, she'll use because she's going to need to. You know, I think she's going to need to really make Katie Taylor so damn uncomfortable, because as a boxer, I mean, I know when I fight boxers, like, you know, boxers, that they're great at boxing when you let them. You know, when you sit and wait, you know, you sit and wait and you box it, they're beautiful. There's, you know, like, but when you're putting pressure on, like, I mean, like Sean Porter kind of pressure, you know, you're, you know, it makes it a lot harder for them. It's not so easy. And that's what the whole point is. You're going to have to make it harder for this boxer. You're going to have to make it harder for her to think and to move, you know, make her more box in survival rather, you know.
So, Ebony, I'm going to press you for a prediction now. Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about how we think the fight's going to go. And what do you say? What's the result going to be?
I think it's going to be another point. I think it's going to be another points decision. Persoon looks really strong, by the way. I just want to mention that. Like, she's looking strong at the moment. So, I mean, but yeah, I see. You know, I think if everything goes out, I think that it should go. You know, what I envision, then I think that it will be quite a wide gap. You know, like a 7-3 at least. You know, 7 rounds to 3 to Katie Taylor. I don't think it's going to be a full. I can't see it really being like a 10. You know, all rounds. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be nowhere near as close as the last fight.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, there'll be some sway rounds. I think. You know, I think with that kind of with that competitiveness, I think there will be. But yeah, I see it as being a lot more decisive.
Yeah.
Or out by Persoon, but no. Put that one on the side there. But no, like yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely don't. I mean, it sucks to. I mean, I hate to underestimate Persoon again. I mean, considering what happened in the last fight, but I just have so much belief in Katie Taylor's skill and development. Like she's still developing. She hasn't had 45 fights, and she's like teaching an old dog new tricks. She's still like, no offense, she's still learning. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so she's not. She could still develop. I think, you know, I could be wrong, but you know, the further on, like I said, I've only had a couple of fights, but the further on, I feel like you're getting in some habits by that point. You know, and sometimes it might be harder to change.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I know we forget about that really, because Katie Taylor seems to have been around forever. And funny enough, about the crowds, we were talking about the crowds. I can remember in 2012, I was at the 2012 Olympics. I didn't watch Katie Taylor box. I was at various things there, and I was watching the Greco-Roman wrestling. And then I came out of the final of that, and I walked past this hall, and it was like, what the hell is that noise? The noise that was going off, and it was the Irish fans watching Katie Taylor win. It was incredible. The place was lifted. You know, I wasn't even in the arena, but you could just hear this noise. I'm
telling you what, I think everything happened the way it should have. Like Katie Taylor having being Irish. I think having that Irish backing, or even I think a Brit would have a similar effect. You know, like I'm just noticing with the British fans, just how amazing they are and how, you know, dedicated and alive and loyal they are to their fighters. You know, so all the people, you know, that they're supporting. I feel like if it was an American fighter, I know we have Clarissa, but I feel like obviously Katie Taylor came along before Clarissa. I think you know, America's a little bit behind with the women's boxing still, quite a bit behind. You know, we can't. I think I feel like if you were to say that they're the same level, you're a little bit, you know, got those rose-colored glasses on, because I just feel like it's not the same. So I think the fact that it came out of Ireland, you know, I think that she had that support all the way through the amateurs. You know, I think that's really helped her development, the development of women's boxing. You know, and all that. And wasn't she petitioning for the Olympics? I mean, to get her in there.
Yeah, because she was dominating the amateurs before that. And it was.
So I mean, it's the whole thing. I mean, it's a butterfly effect, and the next generation. I don't think really my generation. I think the next generation are really going to benefit from it. Yeah. You know, I think I think like this is just the beginning, but like anything, it does take a while. Like, you know, like it's taking a long time. You know, you look at female in general, like in the workforce. You know, it's only just become equal. Like, you know. So where you go, it's the same thing of the women's boxing. Now we're seeing, okay, but it's still going to take a while for everyone to get on board, you know, because it takes a long time to get real change.
Yeah.
So, but I see it in like 10 years. I really think 10 years, you know, another 10 years it's going to be right up there. Like it's going to be quite close.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, like I say, I think even in the last couple of months, the change, and from the last time we talked about, you know, Taylor Persoon, we didn't talk about it in the context of the last 2 weeks of fights and how amazing they were, and world titles changing hands and incredible fights headlining on Sky Sports, and you know, even that feels like a lot of water's gone under the bridge in just that short amount of time. So I think it's definitely arriving.
You know what it is? It has to keep happening. It has to keep going. We have to keep putting these great fights on. We got to keep. The girls got to keep training hard. We've got to keep putting nice, even match fights on to prove that it wasn't just these girls. Because there's such a big, I mean, obviously not compared to the men, but there is a much bigger pool of women's female fighters at the moment. There is a big pool. You know, there's plenty in the UK. You've got, you know, even like, I don't know, Amy Timlin, you know, you got Chantel, you know, Marshall, you got all those guys coming up through too, you know, that still need to make their mark and prove themselves on the big stage. You know, we have a couple in Australia. There's plenty in America. You know, they just need to keep putting these women's fights on, but they got to put the evenly matched or the closer fights on the broadcasts. You know, not be putting like sinister kind of fights on the TV. You know, that doesn't help women's boxing at all. You know, so I think it's really important that these promoters, if they really believe in women's boxing, like Eddie Hearn does, then as a sport, then I think the promoters really need to get behind it and do their part as well. It's you know, it's hard. It's not just us. It's not just you guys. You know, it's a whole thing. It's, you know, it's a movement.
Yeah, totally.
But I think you know, the next year, and once COVID's over, I think it's going to be even better. I'm hoping that once, you know, everyone's borders open, you know, that we're going to have, like, you know, not just the Brits fighting, like good Brits, like, I mean, the Brits fighting, you know, the Germans, but the good ones, you know, everyone at the same kind of thing. You know, don't forget, we do know that, like, there is a place in the beginning of your fight to build your career. You know, you can't expect, like, you know, debuters and, you know, people that had a couple of fights to be thrown straight in like that, you know, because you still got to remember they got to develop as well. But, you know, these fights that you're putting on show, I think they need to be of quality, just to keep proving that the quality is there, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I rambled so much.
Well, thanks, Emily. That's fantastic. Yes, go women's boxing and go this weekend. But
Yeah, I can't wait.
I still think 3-1 is fairly good odds. So,
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think that, I think and you know, it's fair. Because, you know, she did so well in the first. You can't, you know, write off.
It's the world number one against the world number two, you know.
Exactly.
So.
And it's not like a, you know, it isn't. No offense to any Ruiz, but it's not like, you know, what do you call it? Like a.
It's all freak result.
Someone that, not a fluke, but someone just kind of came in as a replacement. You know, and had a win, and then, you know, expect them to do exactly the same thing, thinking they're up here. You know, she really is up there. She's been up there for a long time, and she's well experienced, and she, you know, a lot of people, like I said, think she won that first fight. So you can't completely counter out. Like I said, I really just think it all comes down to Katie Taylor. I don't think it really comes down to Persoon. I think it comes down to Katie Taylor. Yeah. And what Katie Taylor brings on the day and how she boxes. I think. So no, those odds are good for sure.
Yeah.
It's just that they're not counting. It's good that they're not counting her out, if you know what I mean. Like, because I mean, but it'll be exciting. There's been so many upsets and so much stuff. Like, I mean, I feel like if it's gonna keep going, you never know. We might see an upset. Yeah. It's a match. It's the garden mysteries of the fight camp.
And it always seemed to be good, you know, the fight camp.
What goes on in there?
Fights.
You don't know what's going on. You walk in there and all of a sudden all these fights you think is, you know, this is happening, and it all turns upside down. It's literally like I don't know what's going on, but it's like a soap opera in there. Like it's
yeah.
But it's exciting. and it's bringing life to boxing, considering that we had such a terrible year, the beginning of the year. So, yeah. Finally talk about boxing for real.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thanks, Ebony.
No,
Lovely
thank
to you again. And well, let's find out what happens and maybe speak the other side of it.
Yeah, awesome. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be tweeting.
Yeah.